Okay, just so I can talk to the camera a little bit. There's a car, hold on, I'll show you in a minute. There's a car that was way down there. Then he went up that hill right there. And then what he's gonna do is, he went out the opposite direction. So what he's gonna do now is hop down one of these side hills. And then we're gonna see how many more times we see him while we're doing our thing here, which is digital collection of electromagnetic nanocarbon from the cloud level. I'm going to point out while I'm making these videos too that the mineral streets have been so little over the last 3 weeks. I haven't seen nothing like it since Biden took office. Very little mineral streeting going on. At least over my head. Maybe a couple hundred a day over my head. That's not much compared to 10,000 a day. Trails, that is. It's not 10,000 jets, it's just 10,000 trails. Jets going back and forth, back and forth. Actually, I did a video of this field before and it got deleted, so I'll do another one while I'm here, since I'm here anyway. As long as the bike don't fall over. Let's see. Yep. So I did a video, digital collection of electromagnetic nanocarbon from this area we call a hill. Okay? That's how fucking easy this is. I'll go in a little bit deeper. I can come out, doesn't matter. I was just catching the basket on my bike, so I didn't want to do that. That's alright. I'll just leave it right here while I go get a coffee. And when I come out, I'll be all set. digital collection of electromagnetic nanocarbon from the area we call the hill behind Cumbies. Feline, canine, rodent, ape, human, and beast. Digitally collect the EMNC. Understand the true creator's work. Admire the true creator's builders. It's a wonderful thing. That's why they're trying to keep it from you. It has nothing to do with what they tell you it is. Mention a couple things since I got a break, taking a coffee break anyway. So the trackers. So I'm still tracking the trackers. Now that I know who 3 of them, their agencies are, I was able to track them back to, as I mentioned in earlier videos, one of them is working for an old employer of mine. So whatever he's up to, he's working with these guys. They're definitely on my channels, on my YouTube channels. They're working around what I'm telling them and telling you in these videos that I'm doing. They'll change faces, they'll change vehicles. Some of the vehicles that I'm logging are not them, but I'm logging them anyway because of suspicious reasoning. So if I see someone doing something that seems odd, I'm going to grab them, and then if I see them again later, I may not have my camera with me, or they might delete my videos on me. So at least once I start repeatedly or can confirm that those vehicles or faces are related to these same people that are tracking me everywhere, then I'll know. So based on who they are, I'm able to guess as what they're up to. They're definitely trying to set me up on several different things. I'm not good enough at the internet thing to know what they're setting me up on. The friend that I used to have that used to help me out with the computer crap, he actually died this past year, so he's not going to be able to help me anymore. He was able to help me. He taught me a lot, though. He did teach me a lot, so I know I can track trackers now on, by telephone. So when they call me, I can track their numbers back. Even if they're calling from a tracking phone number, it still helps to know that that's what they're doing. So I got that to say about that, and then I'll start mentioning more as I start putting shit together. But what I started doing was the old employer. I'm just gonna call them for now. I'm gonna call them Garden Management, and I just don't want to get in any shit. They'll use that against me and say that I was terrorizing them or some shit, you know. So rather than give them any ammo to work with for the time being, I'm still calling them Gardens, which is fine. Doesn't matter. But anyway, Gardens. I talked before about a little old Jewish lady that they fucked. And so what I'm doing is I'm gathering up the people that were used by the company, Gardens, to fuck this little old Jewish lady. I was one of them. Another girl named was Janine from 3-10. It's not important that anybody knows any of this, so I'm just rambling. But it'll be used later, you know, when we go to court, so they'll know what's what. And they'll know what to expect. So letting them know just as much as I know what they're trying to do to me. Except what I'm telling you is truthful and can be proven by many witnesses. So anyways, you had several people that were called in to testify against this little old lady for one reason or another, to get her evicted from the building. And it wasn't good enough to get her evicted from the building, but they wanted to drain her of all of her life savings, and they pretty much did get a good portion of it, over $36,000, you know, that they took out of her account. I don't remember how much she had in. It's just guesswork, but she'll tell me once I start working with her. Because what I'm already working on, I'm already contacting those people that were witnesses. Now, one of the witnesses was told that if they testified against the little old lady from 2-10, then the lady in 3-10, who was under eviction at the time of the court case, would never be under eviction again, and they would always work with her whenever she was late on her rent or anything like that. That was her. So her and her son both went and testified against a little old lady, saying that they were aggravated by her or whatever. She was a pain in their ass, and that they were going to leave if they, matter of fact, even used it as reasoning, I believe, for not paying her rent because she didn't want to deal with the lady downstairs, which was all true, but it was also exaggerated, and a lot of shit was left out. That's the way court cases are won. If the other attorney does not know the proper questions to ask, then you're gonna get away with it. So just like the contractors, so several contractors were called in. Now those contractors were all promised work. They were promised more and more work if they testified against the little old lady in 2-10, because they wanted this, to drag it out. They wanted to drag it out a little bit, but not too much. They could handle the beating, because like I said in the earlier videos, these people are multimillionaires. They're multimillionaires. They're probably with assets, they're probably somewhere in the billions. But they're a multi-million-dollar a year company, and they got all the fucking money in the world. It's all tax write-off, all this court cost shit for them. I mean, they'll find a way. They know all the loops, right? So that was one case that I'm gonna start drudging up. I already have, actually, because I still have the phone numbers for some of these people, and I should be able to get at least Janine was her name. I used to call her Jay. She's a good friend of mine. I actually used to live with her. I used to stay with her, so I didn't have to stay downstairs in the apartment that I had, because it was a real fucking scumhole, which is another story and another case that I'm gonna drudge up on all this, because I'm so fucking pissed that these guys are bothering me. After 12 years, I think I quit that job 12 years ago, and they're gonna come after me, busting my balls, working with the feds to fuck with me. Get the fuck out of here. So anyways, next thing was the other one was I guess I can go right on to the basement apartments. So Garden Gardens had a habit of these uninhabitable living spaces in the basements of their apartment complexes. They're infamous for it. There was many. I know from my past experience, because when I worked there, I used to talk to some of these other supers and that were managing these other properties. And number one, there's a pay wage thing that happens. So for you people at the IRS that are fucking chasing me down and looking for me too, because that's another department, you really should go look at the fucking people you're working with, because they're not fucking good. So anyways, used to get 70, 80 hours a week out of their employees. They still do. It's just that when you're an employee there and you're counting on that job to make a living, then then you're not going to open your fucking mouth, right? You're going to shut up and keep doing it. But it's very unfair. That's the way it is in the maintenance industry. They're not the first ones, and they're probably not going to be the last, but they were definitely one of the worst, because some of the conditions that they had us living in were terrible. And it's where a lot of the Metellus were picked up. Me getting sick from the Metellus, there was 10 different types of Metellus down there. You had fungus Metellus, at least probably, 8 to 10 different strains of fungus Metelluses that were coming in from every different direction in those basement apartments. They're finished apartments, but it's a basement. You can't help it. You just can't help it. It's a basement. So when it rains outside and it snows, the water comes down the walls. It's a big fucking nightmare. It starts coming up through the carpets. I had to take the carpets out of my apartment. I spent 10 grand of my money that I was earning and spent it on that apartment because they would not update it. And even the updates that I made, a window that costed me, I got the receipts for it all too, which is good. I used their contractor. Dino's was the name of the contractor. And I got the receipts from Dino, $2,200 to install the window. Garden Gardens supplied the window, which only costed like $125, if I remember correctly, $150. But I had to pay the $2,200 to have the window put in, because it was thick, thick cinder block, several layers, plus brick and all this shit. It was a big fucking job to put in a window to get some ventilation down the other end of the apartment, because everybody that lived with me was getting sick, including me. So, so I'm going to be working on that. And then there was Joe over in Bridgeport. Joe, same thing. His apartment got matter of fact, their apartments got flooded way worse than mine did. Way worse. And they lived with it for more years than I did. So they are definitely sick at this point. They were sick back then. But again, you don't want to say anything. You know, the way that, I don't want to say too many people's names. I definitely don't want to say last names, but Richard was the owner of the company, Garden Gardens. Him and his father owned the company, and yeah, they knew it. They knew everything that was going on. I remember talking in the office one day with one of the guys who's now died of emphysema, lung disease, I believe they were calling it. I don't know, because I have not gotten a hold of his family yet. I'm trying to reach his family, and he died of that lung infection, and I mean, it was unbelievable. You walked down there, you were squishing in the fucking carpets. And then when it all cleared out, there was padding under those carpets sitting on concrete slabs. It just holds the fucking fungus in the water. It's a nightmare. The whole thing was a nightmare. They should have never forced their superintendents to live in those basement apartments. And it's the only way that they would let them do it. They did not want to give them a real apartment, because that would be considered a rental, an extra, whatever, depending on the property. It could be $1,100, $2,000, $3,000 a month, depending on if it was a New York apartment or Connecticut or wherever, you know. So, total fuck job. So I'm reaching out to them. Then I'm reaching out to a guy named John, or Tony they call him too. So I got a hold of him, but now the only thing is he's real sick. He's real sick. He's got other sicknesses besides the Metellus, but he does have the Metellus. I can tell by the way he's describing it and what he's going through. And he lived in the apartment before me. He has other ailments that are separate from the Metellus, but he definitely has the Metellus. So I'm talking to him, and I'm going to see what I can work out with him. He's so sick that I don't even know if I can get him into court. He might have to sign some affidavit or some shit, I don't know. And I don't have money for lawyers for any of this either, so it's going to all be on the apartment 2-10, the older Jewish woman. Whatever money she's got, she can put it to her lawyer, and they can try to get their money back to try to recoup their 30 to 50 grand, whatever they spent her life savings, and maybe she'll get a lawsuit out of it. Especially if I can get 3 to 4 people as witnesses to go in and testify on her behalf to say she was railroaded. And she was railroaded. She was fucked because she didn't have enough money to keep fighting these fucking millionaire scum. All right, then, so we got that one, and then we got the fungus-ridden basement apartments that they were forcing everybody to live into. We got the monetary system of, he never wanted to do time clocks. He finally started doing time clocks. He was getting in trouble over the years for time clocks. And the reason he doesn't like to do time clocks, a lot of people are like, wow, that's so great. You get to sign in and sign out. It ain't no fucking great thing. You can't get away from the work if you're a real person. You're starting at 4 or 5 in the morning because there's people in your complex that are calling you for things. You're doing towing. You're scheduling shit. You're doing all this kind of shit before you're even doing physical labor. You're already working for 2-3 hours before you get out the door at 8-9 o'clock to even do physical stuff. It's the way it is in the maintenance business. Shit happens. So they used to tell us, you can take the time off next week, whatever you put in for extra time this week. Okay. There were a lot of people in the company doing that, a lot, and they were not taking off time the following week. You cannot take time off the following week, because the following week there's even more shit that happened next week than happened last week. That's the way it goes. So they're full of shit. They just tell you that. Oh yeah, you take the time off next week. Never. So you don't get paid overtime, and not only that, but you're working a lot of hours. You're losing all your energy. Your energy's being wasted on these fucking millionaire gazillionaires, you know? Anyways, point this up here a little bit. So you got those guys. Then you got the other one I mentioned before too was Santiago. I won't say his last name, but Santiago. He retired. working 60, 70 hours a week at least. I used to see him at every freaking job I went to when I was working in the laundry departments. I used to fix the laundry machines for these people, as well as do maintenance. And in the laundry department, this guy was retired, and Richard used to get away with paying him, throwing him like $700 a week for 60, 70 hours worth of work. And he didn't care. Santiago thought that was fair because he figured he was already collecting anyway. So to him, it was just extra money. He was already collecting from Social Security. So I got at least 3 of them that I know that I can vouch for, and I can also provide witnesses for the fact that they were all collecting either Social Security or welfare benefits and working for Richard under the table. So once I get them guys together, whether they want to testify against him or not, because I don't think Santiago even will, if he's even still alive, because he was 78 when I last seen him, and he wasn't doing too good. And that'll be another one that I'm working on to defend myself, because that's what I'm really doing. You could call it offensive and going on the offensive, but it's really not. They're just busting my balls so bad that I have to go back at them all. So I'm going to put all this shit together over the next few weeks and start working on it, because they're going to nail me with something. They're setting me up for something anyway. Obviously, I found all that fucking weed in my car. My weed, my baggies, my trash bags taken out of my trash, right? They can put it all back to me. So that one didn't work with them. I'm not going to leave the car unlocked anymore for certain. I mean, that's pretty fucked up too, because I used to been leaving my car unlocked for years. Never locked my cars up before. Never. And no matter what, even living in Holyoke and some bad places, I never locked my car. Now I got to start locking my fucking car. And watching things a little more closely. Even the trash barrels, you know. You gotta watch your trash now. Okay, then we got several other things with garden management. Racially profiling and firing people. The guy that I replaced was fired on false pretenses, racially motivated. The Jewish lady was racially profiled also, which is strange, and I can't figure it out. All I can tell you is she was racially profiled to get her out, because the owner's also Jewish. So I don't understand why he hated this lady as much as they all did. Yeah, she was crazy. She definitely did some crazy shit, in my opinion, as well, but nothing that required that. There are many crazier people in the world than her. But when I took that position, when I got hired, that was part of the condition, was to get her out of the building any which way possible. They did not want her there anymore. So I was to start filing paperwork on her immediately and all this kind of shit. So anyway, so that's being worked on. The poor living conditions, the false tax returns, and all the falsities there, because all that money also hiring people that were collecting unemployment and Social Security disability just so he could pay them quarter wages, because that's pretty much what it was, quarter wages, half wages. I know in Santiago's case, his job was worth $25, $30 an hour even back then. And he was $700 a week, didn't come up to anywhere near that he was being paid in cash. So we had all that kind of crap going on. Yeah, and the hours was a big thing, you know, putting guys out in the field for 60, 70, 80 hours a week. So there's a couple other things that are in there that are not nice, but I don't know that they're breaking any laws or anything. So I'm just gonna call the people. Like, I'm gonna call my old manager Larry, and I want to call my old manager Rick, and those guys got fucked. They got fucked on the way in the door, and they got fucked on the way out the door. Larry was working for the company Garden Gardens for 20 some odd years, I think 22 years or some shit. And he was making too much salary and too much money from the yearly increases in pay that were made, due by law. You had to do a minimum wage increases and stuff. So he was up there in salary, and they figured we could bump him up in responsibility and give him a job that's impossible. No one man can do this job, and it's true. No one man can do it. It's because the properties are too far away from each other. That's why it was a regional manager's position, but it required 3 regional managers, minimum 2, but more likely 3 in order for all 3 to be comfortable. But then you'd be talking about $500,000, $600,000 in salaries and benefits and all kinds of shit, right? So they didn't want to pay that, and they didn't want to do that. What am I at for minutes here? All right, this video's almost over, right? I gotta get my glasses. So they didn't want to do that, so what they did was promoted him to a job that he would definitely fail at. And that's exactly what happened. So that happened with Larry. Then when they brought Rick in, they fired Larry, said that he fudged some paperwork and got him for this kind of same way they're doing with me now, making up some bullshit allegations that sound good on paper and sound good to the court, but when you really get down to it, anybody that could afford to fight these accusations, which nobody can, right? But anybody that can afford to fight the accusations can win, because if you go in with a good lawyer and you got you need 30, 40 grand at least to be thrown at a good lawyer in order to get out of the shit. So most people just plead guilty and then they go to, but no, there's no fucking guilt here. Not for me, not for Larry, not for anybody. Now with Larry, what they did, guilty maybe of some things, but they're nothing that compared to what you would have to deal with. In other words, like using my situation as an example, what they're trying to nail me on is saying that I took in money from my apartment from my roommates, right? That's one of the things they're trying to claim, and that's what they're coming after me for. And the reality of it is that I spent $10,000 of my own fucking money putting it into the apartment to get it even suitable for myself and my family. And I had several girlfriends living with me at the place over the years. They all got sick. Everybody got sick that ever lived down there because of the fungus and the mold. So there's no fucking way I was going to be able to keep doing that. So once my kids moved out and they were out of the house and safe and in a good home rather than living in a shithole, then I had no choice but to take on roommates to keep an eye on things, because I was running back and forth and back and forth. I was in New York to, like I said before, New York, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Vermont, Rhode Island. I was all over the fucking place. So it was nice. I was able to, I was actually living upstairs in the upper part of the building even when I stayed there. Even though the apartment was still mine downstairs, I didn't want to stay there because I got sick all the time staying down there. So I used to stay upstairs in apartment 3-10 with my girlfriend Janine, or I would go and stay in 3-11 with my other girlfriend Laura. So for me, it was a no-brainer. I wasn't going to be fucking sick all the time. I knew it was something that was going on down there. I just couldn't prove it. And the medical industry wasn't going to help me prove anything or nothing like that. Now, what I now know, enough science and math about the fungus and the mold and how bad it really was, then yeah, I think maybe I can put it all together now. So that's what I'm going to try doing. But now with Larry, what they did with him was, okay, in the maintenance business, when contractors that you're relying on to put carpeting, let's say, just as one example, this goes for everything, plumbers, electricians, everybody. Okay, they got to wait 30 days usually to get their money, right? So contractors have a hard time doing that, especially when they're small contractors. So if you know that every month for the last 3 months, you've been installing, let's say, 40, 50 carpets a month, right? So you get to a point where you say to the guy, look, man, I didn't get anything for last month. I'm carrying the nut for all the carpet that I installed. And this is the exact story. It was a carpet guy that Larry got caught up with. And I'm assuming, I don't know for sure because I haven't spoken to Larry yet, but I'm assuming what happened was the carpet guys said, look, you got 7 or 8 or 10 or 30 more carpets that you need done, apartments that you need carpeted for next month. So we can't do it. We're already so far in the hole right now because you haven't paid us for the last 2 months. And because this did happen every once in a while, sometimes 30 days, something would go wrong with paperwork, and 30 days would turn into 60 days and shit like that. So what Larry had to do, he had no choice. He's the regional manager. He's got to keep shit going. So if you throughout, let's say, spread out throughout 50 properties, you have a total of 50 apartments that need carpeting. Carpet guys are not coming back unless you give them some money. So what you have to do is you have to pay them for them apartments carpeting in advance. And then so you're not really paying them in advance though. It's just that you're not waiting for the 30 to 60 day billing cycle. But according to the company, it is being paid in advance. Even though by the time they get the check, the carpeting in those apartments is already in works. It's already on its way to being done that month, right? So then so they're starting, and then Larry would tell them, okay, get so many apartments done, and I'll hand you over the check or whatever, and I'll put it through that they already happened. So in order to do that, to make that 30-day window, he must have had to do something like that. That's what I'm assuming. And that's what got him fucked. And then he got shit canned. And he lost a lot of shit. He lost everything because he was there for 22 plus years as a maintenance superintendent. And then he was not college educated. So when he went to take the job, they told him, yeah, you'll be able to handle it. It's a regional manager's job. You can do it. The last guy did it. Fuck you, you liars. Guys are such liars. Last guy didn't do it either. You put people in the position, but nobody ever was able to do the job that needed to be done because it's impossible. You needed to have they did the same thing with their machine mechanics and everybody else. They have one guy doing the work of 3 or 4 guys, and then in other places and positions, lower paying, low wage jobs, you had 20 people doing the job of one person could do, right? It was all backwards, but that's the way the corporate system works. So, yeah, I'm going to work on that. I'll be back.